Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. We have a special guest, Erik Cabral. This is one of those guys, whenever I talk to people now, I try to tell them that I'm always talking to new people that are smarter than me. I like that because I think it's important for us to have people around us that are smarter than us, that have more experience in certain areas, because that's how you grow. So I'm super excited to have Erik on the show. I've known him for a while now, and he's given me some great advice, some great insight. Erik, welcome to the show.
It's funny, and thank you so much, Chris, for having me. Always good spending time with you. I feel the same way about you. I mean, everybody is smarter at some aspect in whatever it is they're experts in. And whenever we talk about podcast networks, I'm like, man, Chris has got this down. I need to talk to Chris. So, yeah, I appreciate you, and thank you for that comment.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what podcasting is, though. It's like our little ecosystem of experts or creators, whatever you want to call it. We've kind of created a nice, really cohesive community where I feel like it's not even a lot of competition. You know, it's more so we all work really well together from my experience.
100%. I came from corporate and then transitioned to real estate investing. And what I noticed, the big difference between the two were, corporate was like dog eat dog. I got secret sauce, don't look at my test. Don't look at my work, and very competitive. And then when I got into real estate investing, it was like in this abundance mindset, like not scarce, no scarcity mindset. And I was shocked. I was like, I love this place. And then when I got into podcasting in that industry was the same. I'm like, what? Everybody just wants to love on everybody and help each other grow. It's like, man, how am I so blessed to have two industries that sort of have the same mantra.
Man, I love that. I love that you brought that up too, because it makes it so different when you operate in a space like that. But I want to know a little bit more about the real estate. So what are you doing in that space? Like, what kind of got you there?
So after 20 plus years in corporate America and the grind and the hustle and the competition and the stress and the toxic environment, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great there too. I mean, I learned on the job. They paid me as I learned and grew. But I took all that learning and building business, it was like my MBA and like building a business, on someone else's dime. I realized after the second time I was getting laid off, which is a blessing, right? Only twice in 20 years. I was like, what's next? I'm kind of tired of doing this. This is easy. And I'm making as much as I think I'm ever going to make. I hit a glass ceiling. So I was like, let me start looking into other ways to like create, a revenue or build like financial freedom, meaning that I don't have to work for every dollar. Like it's just passive income into my bank account. And, people think stock, when they think about some sort of passive investment or mutual funds, which we had all that. But I was like, I want to try something new. So then I started jumping into real estate investing, and it started working. I started buying, tried to flip houses, and I was like, this is not for me. But then I was like, oh, rentals. So I started buying multifamilies. Now I'm into resorts and hotels and golf courses and wineries, all of which those last three things are the same project. But yeah, it's partners. Like that's not me doing the work. That's like me doing what I do best in marketing and branding and helping the projects. But I have partners that are experts in that stuff. Like, one of my partners, Josh McCallum, that's his wheelhouse. And then I just stand next to him. And I'm like, hey, man, help me. I'll help you. You help me. So that's the whole abundance mindset in that industry, which eventually, as I started to grow my own podcast, for a personal brand sort of edition, I did it for him. And then I did it for someone else. And I did it for someone else. And then got me into the podcast industry just clearly to create content and build a personal brand and awareness for what we're doing.
Man, I love that. Wow. So you just said, I'm tired of this regular lifestyle. I want to switch it up.
Yeah.
That is, I think a lot of people want to do that, but they're afraid. Yeah. So for you, was there a fear in transitioning, or were you like, nah, I'm not scared of nothing. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Total fear. And I was scared out of my mind. But one of the big things in my corner was my wife, having a spouse that fully supported my ideas. She knew I was a risk taker. When she met me, I'd play a lot of poker. I'd go. I fancy myself like a semi-pro. I wasn't that good, but like I had the confidence of a pro. And there was no joke. One time, Chris, I was like, I think I'm so good at this, I'm going to become like full time. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to sell my car, and I'm going to use that as my bankroll. That will bankroll me into like win the World Series of Poker. That's what I thought I was going to do. And she's like, "Are you out of your mind?" And she's like, "You are not doing that." And I was like, "I got to marry this woman. Like, she's keeping me grounded, right?" But when I brought real estate to the table, she was like, "This makes sense. Like, yeah, I think you can do it, and I support you." So it was very helpful to have someone on my side to be like, "I'll continue to work, I'll pay the bills while you ramp up, while you figure all that out." That's critical. So I did have that to help me with my fear, because she gave me confidence and then let me know that, yeah, financially we could do this, for a year or two. And if it didn't work, I would just go back to work. But it's working. Thank goodness.
Oh, man, I love that. That is some support. I don't think we talk about that enough in entrepreneurship, as far as the spouse you have and how that impacts your business journey. Because like you said, if you have somebody that's supporting you and they're just down for the cause, then it's going to be a lot easier than if you're on the other side and they don't support it and they don't support the cause and they don't understand it. It just won't work. So how did she feel when you said, "Okay, I'm going to start podcasting too"? Like, what was that like?
I'll tell you, there was only one question one time out of the, I think I've been podcasting for 3 years now, at least. I was leaving at 8:00. I was going to miss dinner because I had to go on an interview. I had to go interview someone on location at their business. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going to go record a podcast." And she's like, "Why are you doing that?" And dude, it turned out so wonderfully, because I still partner with that business. Like, they are a catering restaurant company, and I was I would frequent. It's in Princeton, New Jersey, and I would frequent their establishment. And we became friends because of the podcast. I was like, "I love your food. I've been coming here for years. Can I interview you?" And super interesting story, mother-daughter team, and a family of entrepreneurs. And dude, they're like my most downloaded episode. And they've catered all my events, like every single Podmax live event. They've catered it. Right. And they've given me crazy discounts because they love me, and they cater my family events. So can you imagine, like, she's never questioned the podcast again. And she's also saw right away, I think I was only podcasting for maybe 6 to 8 months before I got my first client, because the people I was interviewing would hear their episode come out and they would say, "I want what you have. That sounded amazing. I didn't know it was that good. Can you create one for me?" And then created one for we. And all of a sudden it became a business. It became On Air Brands.
Man, yeah. I love that. It's amazing. And that just shows you the power of relationships, to connect with one person and then keep that relationship long term. Like, I think that's also something that helps us in podcasting, is I believe that the good podcasters understand this. It's all about relationships. It's all it's about. If you want to interview somebody, you're going to have to talk to somebody to get to that person. If you want to get sponsored, you're going to have to talk to somebody to get the paycheck. Like, there's so many things that all come down to relationships. So can you give me 3 of the most important people in your podcasting circle?
Oh, man. Such a good question. So I'm going to go linearly. So I'd have to credit, holy smokes, let me think the order here. So Josh McCallan.
You don't have to rank them.
Yeah, I'm not ranking. I'm trying to think the top 3, because I'm like, okay, who's 4 and 5? Yeah, so I had to push some people down in my head just there. But Josh McCallan was my very first business partner, like official sort of podcast co-host. He came from a wealthy, multi-million-dollar industry in terms of like flipping resorts and buying properties and making them better and making them shine. And he did all that in New Jersey through one like high net worth individual, and he worked for that guy. And eventually they split partnerships, and my partner now, Josh, moved on to do it on his own. And when we found each other, he said, "I need a podcast." And that's where we created this podcast called Capital Hacking, which is like my biggest podcast today. And he started getting me involved in more of his projects, where I started to invest in those resorts and those golf courses and all that stuff. And it's continuing. Like, we're buying more and more stuff together. So what's cool about that is that kept me in real estate, but in a passive way. Right, I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations of that. That's his thing. My role is creating podcasts. My role is talking about our properties. My role is bringing investors to the table and introducing them to the community. So that's really powerful. He's probably at the top. And then I want to give credit. Obviously, there's another Josh. I only work with Joshes, by the way, Chris. You know Josh Carey, who's my business partner in Podmax. Well, I have to sort of rewind the tape back to a mutual friend, a really good friend named Donnie Zolden, who I met at a podcasting event. He had a podcasting event called Podcast Row, and he and I were working together there. Like, I was helping and supporting everything he was doing, and it involved James Altucher, who's also a friend, and I loved what he was doing. You know, I wasn't involved on like an operational level, but I was involved as a podcaster and as a guest and then a podcast. Like, I kept coming back in some way, shape, or form. And I was like, "Hey, Donnie, this is awesome, man."
That's such a luxury position to just be the podcaster. Yeah, that's such a luxury position, man. You get to just show up and talk to
exactly.
people.
And I was like, "This is powerful.
It's lovely. I love it."
I was like, "This is magical, dude," and I love you for it. I'm like, "Let's do this in real estate." And because I have a massive real estate network, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to pause on this." I think he paused on the whole thing. And I went to do it in real estate, like create it. At the time I wanted to call it PodX, and that was taken. It was in the podcasting space. And then eventually I was like, then Podmax popped in my mind. And I was like, oh, damn, this is for real estate investors getting on real estate shows. They loved it, dude. It became a mastermind. It became like a networking event. It became like people were finding future partners and clients. So we did 3 of those live. And at that point, I had met Josh Carey at one of Donnie's events. He interviewed me on a show. And then we partnered. Like, he started coming down to the On Air Brand studio, and we started like really getting to know each other. And he saw what I was doing with Podmax. And he was like, dude, I love this. He's like, how can I get more involved? And time, grew trust. And I was like, yo, bro, you want to be a co-founder with me? You want to help me run this? And he was like, I'd love to. And then thankfully that happened, because then 2020 slapped us in the face and we went virtual.
Yeah.
And that's where his superpower came out. I was like, oh, damn, look at Josh with a cape on now. So that's number 2, and number 3, because Donnie, I'd credit, for me meeting Josh Carey.
Did you know that 99% of podcasters struggle to ever make any money from their show? I'm not kidding you. 99%. Most shows never make a dime from their podcast. That's a problem, obviously. I know you see other shows out there that are getting sponsored. Some shows are getting bought by bigger companies, and you want some of that revenue too. I totally understand. I get it. The problem is most podcasters are not prepared to make that kind of money from their show. They just aren't ready for it because of 2 reasons. Number 1, the lack of a marketing plan. You don't have a strategy to market your show. How are you going to get listeners? How do you get attention? How do you build an audience high enough to where you actually can make money from it? That's a struggle. Now, number 2 is actually knowing how to monetize, right? Knowing how to negotiate with a sponsor, knowing how to sell your own products. All of this stuff needs to be learned over time. That's why we created Castosity. This is a tool that helps you automate your entire marketing process when it comes to marketing your show. Whether it's you on a solo episode by yourself or if you have special guests, we help you automate that entire process. It saves you a ton of time and make everything super, super easy. Now, we also help you with monetizing. Whether you want to set up deals with sponsors and sell your assets like a massive Instagram account or email blast, we help you with that. We even give you scripts so you can negotiate with sponsors and get paid what you are worth. So Castosity is a no-brainer. We're running a special deal right now. I want you to check it out. It's linked in the description below. I love that. So one thing I teach podcasters about is, we just talked about relationships. So for you, what do you think is that thing you do to keep those relationships going? The people you might not talk to every day, you talk to every now and then, because we don't want to be that person that contacts somebody just when we need something or just when we want something. Yeah. How do you keep relationships going and stay connected over time?
Yeah, I'm gonna quote one of our keynotes, and I'll loosely call him a friend. Jordan Harbinger said on our stage, he said, "Dig the well before you're thirsty." Now, I didn't know that term at the time, but I understood that's what I've been doing all my life. Like I love people and I love conversations, hence why a podcast is like such a perfect fit for me. I don't contact people just when I need something. I used to be like that when I was in corporate America. Whenever you're looking for a new job, right? You always know when somebody's losing a job or they know they're that 1 foot out the door or they're about to get fired. You're like, oh, I haven't heard from Jimmy in a while. Why is he calling me for? Because he's looking for a job. Yeah. I was that guy too. And I started to realize later in life that doesn't work. Like, that's not genuine relationship. You're just out for you and for yourself and, the benefit of you.
Really selfish, yeah.
Yeah. So as I got into entrepreneurship is when I started to realize the power of relationships and how it's really done. And it's got to be genuine. You got to really give a crap about what that person has to say, be a good listener. The podcast created that superpower in me to be a really good listener. I think I always was that, but the podcast just enhanced it. But yeah, that's exactly
I love that phrase. Yeah. I love that phrase, build well before you're thirsty. I had one of my mentors told me, we started working together in 2015. He's been telling me for years to get affiliates, get partners, all of this stuff. And I thought I wasn't doing it. And I didn't realize that I was doing it because a few years ago, I set up an automation on my podcast to where anybody's schedules on my show, they immediately get added to HubSpot and they get a tag added to them as a partner. I completely forgot about this. I set this up years ago. I've done hundreds of interviews now. I got an email from HubSpot like, hey, we're going to close your account. And I'm like, close it? It's still open? I go and look, and it's hundreds of people I've talked to. I had no idea I set that up. I completely forgot about it. But it's still there. And it's amazing how life works out because most of those people on that list are now helping me with the software launch for Castosity. And other people are helping me with my podcast network launch with iHeartRadio. So it's like I 100% agree that you got to build that well and really be patient with it. I think most people try to rush it too much, trying to get, because we know if you have certain relationships, you can make more money a lot easier. But those relationships have to be earned. You don't get to just show up one day and say, hey, look, I have this skill, you have that skill, let's make money together. It's like, wait, you got to kind of build that first. But I think the power is building that across the board with, instead of 1 or 2 people, 50 people over the span of like 3 years. That's what really can honestly change your life.
Oh, yeah. Especially when years go by and you're still pinging the same people and checking in with them. How you doing? How can I help you? And never like asking, how can you help me? That really truly shows people, where you're coming from and that it's real because it's going on for years and years and years. And if it weren't real, that wouldn't happen, right? They would only hear from you every once in a while and you'd be like, hey, I need something. Can you connect me to someone or can you do this for me? So yeah, that like you said, it takes time and it takes, genuine curiosity and care.
So for you, when it comes to the revenue, you obviously have 20 different income streams. So, and this is something I like asking all of my guests that are into some kind of investing or, that are really into making money that way, because I think that's what most podcasters want is to know, how can I make more money? So from your shows, are your podcasts generating you revenue? Obviously, it probably won't be like real estate money, but are your podcasts generating you revenue to where you're like, hey, this is worth continuing to deliver this content?
I'll tell you this, Chris, and I'm going to be honest with your audience here. I'm not making Rogan money. I'm not making, Tim Ferriss money. We all know like that's an upper echelon and decades worth of investing your time and your craft and honing your craft. We are at a different, I don't want to lump you in, but, me and our tribe of community and in Podmax, we're sort of at the same level, where we get hundreds of downloads per episode, maybe thousands. We got some where they make, 5, maybe 10 or 25,000. It's probably around the top of in our network. To me, it's always about building relationships and finding the next partner, the next client, the next person I can help versus like how many downloads and how much money am I making through sponsorships. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but that's a road that when you get there, you're ready for it. Right now, a lot of us and a lot of our podcasters aren't ready for it yet, and they understand the value currently is building relationships and trust.
I love that, because one other question I have for you was, which will be a priority? You know, do you want to get more clients or do you want to sell more sponsorships? Because that's a question, I'm telling you, the debate that a lot of podcasters have in themselves internally. Like, yeah, I could make money over here selling my own products and providing a service, but if my show grows to this level, I can make this money by just a 2-minute ad. So I guess you kind of answered it already, but which one is your priority?
So I'm gonna answer that, but let me say this first: is that there's two distinct differences here. There's the podcast. There's a person, an entrepreneur, who, or it doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. It could be someone who still has their job, wants to create a podcast solely to create a business. Like, podcasting is their business, and they think and want to be the next Rogan, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
But you're turning your podcast into a business, so you have to run it like a business and you have to treat it as such. For me, on the other hand, there's the other side, and I fall into this category, is I see it as a piece, a cog in a gigantic machine. I'm doing 100 different things, and that complements what I'm doing, right? So yes, I make money through podcasting, but think about how I do it, Chris, and everyone who's listening, hopefully, or watching, is that I have a network of podcasters, all of which are become brand champions of the business, right? And then it reverberates into the ethos, into the Vayners, I'm going to drop names here, into the entrepreneur magazines, into the iHeart Radios, all the people who have participated with Podmax. So from there, we don't make money directly from a podcast or a download or a sponsorship. We make money because people are aware of what we're doing and who we're working with, and therefore they trust us. Then we start to create products and services for them.
Yeah, man, I love that, because I believe that's the most profitable way to podcast. You know, there's a ceiling on your sponsorship revenue. You know, if a sponsor is paying, like if LaCroix was sponsoring your show, like they're only going to pay you a certain amount, you know. But if you're selling your own products, there's no ceiling on that. You know, there's nobody who's going to tell you, hey, you sold enough, that's it. Like I've seen some companies where they cap you as an affiliate, you know, where it's like you sold too much and we're not, no more. And I've seen it happen, especially the podcasters. So I always tell people, hey, as soon as you can, create some product, create a service, do something. I don't care if you're just building websites and writing copy for people. Do something, because that's going to be more profitable than trying to get sponsored. It's just...
What I want to add, Chris, is those out there who want to create a podcast to become, you know, the next Dax Shepard. It's, you're the product, right? And there's only so much of you. So definitely, like Chris said, create a business, create a PDF, do something where it's offering value to people. They fall in love with you and they want to hear more and they want to do more with you. You're going to have to eventually realize this podcast isn't necessarily the business. I can create a business or have a business that this complements, and the podcast is really just, it's kind of just an advertisement for you and what you're doing.
Exactly. And then I think another thing, you got to get rid of that fear of competition. I just don't believe in it anymore. I used to, but like now I know 50 people who help people launch podcasts, and we all get clients. So it's like, if there was competition, right, it would only be 2 or 3 of us that were like up here that were getting clients. But that's obviously not true, because all of us get clients from different walks of life. We all work with different types of businesses and people that are launching podcasts. So if your fear is competition, then you got to get past that, because it just doesn't really exist, to be honest with you. It just doesn't.
Yeah. It's
not real. It's made up in your head, and it's an excuse you give yourself to not perform.
100%.
So for you, what's next? Like, what's next up for Erik? Can I talk about the podcast network? Can I ask you anything? Can you give us anything?
Dude, yeah, please. I mean, that's your wheelhouse. But yeah, I follow you, man. And how that's built, created. Definitely, yeah.
So with your podcast network, what is the main focus there? Who should be tuning in?
Well, I'd say at least 50% of our network are real estate podcasts related to investing. We're trying to expand into like the Bitcoin, other sort of investment vehicles.
But financing,
yeah, we got a lot of finance podcasts, and that is a niche that we love. That I'm an investor. I love that community, and then the rest are really. I'd say, like the 49% is entrepreneurship and business in general. And we're starting to expand into two other buckets. One being health and wellness, which will probably comprise of like anywhere between 5 to 10% maybe. And then faith. So we're trying to start growing and looking for. So if you're listening to this and you have a faith-based podcast, we'd love to talk to you. But those are really the 4 buckets that we're building right now, especially with our Podmax talent platform, which is our version of a booking agency.
I love that. So you have a plan set up already. Yeah. I could see somebody that's listening getting some of the faith content, and then also learning about personal financing and also learning about investing. And I think that's what makes a podcast network thrive is you want to create an ecosystem where the same person can listen to at least 3 of your shows. That's when you have a good network. If somebody can come in and listen to 3 of your shows and get something different and it all aligns together, that's when your network is going to blow up, because then you can keep attracting those same kind of people, because now you're not getting just 1 download, you're getting 3. They're also going to go promote all 3 shows because all of them are giving them something valuable separately. So I love that alignment you set up, man. Eric, you kill it. I love it. I love it.
And dude, and I need your help, man, because that's, I am the visionary when it comes to creating all these products and services and how we could best serve the community and give what the market is asking for. But I'm not an executor. I don't know how to actually make all of this work. I can think of it, but then, I need people who can integrate and operate and, conversations that you and I have about building our network and taking it to the next level. Our network is our network in terms of like relationships and partnerships, but we haven't taken it to the next level where I know you can help. And but yeah, it's all good stuff. We got the framework and of self-development flywheel, and yeah, it was something that I needed, and I know that the majority, like a large percentage of podcast listeners, they're all into self-improvement. So.
Yeah, that might be where all of us started listening to podcasts.
Exactly.
I know it was for me. Man, and this was great. Eric, I know you got to run. So let the people know where they can find you, where they can find Podmax, On Air Brands, just all your links. Put them all out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, first I want to give to your audience something, no charge. There's podmax.co/masterclass where we talk to anyone. It's go at your own pace. It's a very short sort of masterclass where we talk to you about personal branding and how you can really hone in on your message and figure out how to get that off the ground. So podmax.co/masterclass. And then, yeah.
And I've seen that masterclass, people. I've seen it myself. It is very good, especially if you want to be on podcasts and build your brand. That is a good masterclass. I saw it a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been around that long. Yeah.
I've seen it some time ago, and it was really good. I want to say it. I want to put that out there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and then the website's just podmax.co and honorbrands.com.
All right, man. I love it. Man, again, thank you for being on here. We got to do some live events soon, some in-person events to be specific. I'm excited to get back to that, man.
Yeah. We have one next week, man. My whole team's going out there, and 800 people. So we're excited. Yeah, one of our first in over a year. So yeah, it's gonna be good.
Oh man, that is exciting. So Eric, again, thank you for being on.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.